Let me now take this opportunity to welcome back Second Shot with some musical soul livening.
I should say this is a request. We're going to do this all month. Eric asked us to do this. It's called Love is the Answer, and we were going to have the words up here because it's so congregational. So you're all going to sing the chorus. Light of the world, shine on me, love's the answer. Shine for us all, set us free, love's the answer.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it several times so you get it at the end. It goes like this. Name your price, a ticket. I can't stay here anymore, and I've looked high and low. I've been from shore to shore to shore. If there's a shortcut, I'd have found it. There's no easy way around it. Light of the world, shine on me. Love is
Yes, thank you, Second Shot. I look forward to learning that song this month. That was awesome. So it is my privilege now to bring up our guest, Liz Mirante. Reverend Liz has been a minister with Centers for Spiritual Living since 1999, receiving her ordination in 2003. Reverend Liz hails from the Seattle area, where she did her ministerial training and served on the staff of CSL Seattle for 14 years, as well as raising her 2 daughters. Between 2 several-month stints teaching for the center in Ukraine, Liz served as senior minister of the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living from 2008 to 2013. Liz is delighted to be back in the Pacific Northwest as of June 2018, not retiring, but rewiring. Help me welcome Reverend Liz.
I'll keep everything right here. I open my stuff on it. Good morning, Genesis. Good morning. It's wonderful to be with you, and I just have to do one shout out. Shout out, Cousin Mary. Mwah, mwah. Before I go into my talk, which is actually, Love is the Answer is what I understand is the theme for the month. My talk title is, If Love is the Answer, What is the Question? So there's that, which those of you who read these things know. But before I do that, I just wanted to give a plug for the co-creation process and tell you it really is important. Earlier, the announcement was made about an intention workshop. If intentions are really vital for our personal lives and create power for bringing into our lives that which we want and deciding truly what we want powerfully, then I think getting your next spiritual leader for this community that you might all want to be together to really craft through spirit and the power of community what it is that you want to draw forth. So it's great processes, and it's amazing how the community coalesces. So just a plug for that. It really is important. Yeah. So you've got this great theme for the month, Love is the Answer. And of course, Ernest Holmes said tons of stuff on love. I often go to a book that was compiled toward the end of his life just because it has stuff we haven't always already read. And there's a couple things I want to read from this. It's not his most eloquent, but it is him being succinct, which is rare. As I should know, because I like to follow in his normal footsteps. So, first of all, in this one chapter on the power of love, he talks about love is the lodestone. And if you're like me, you thought, well, lodestone, okay, I kind of know what that is, but what is it? Well, it's actually a stone that acts like a magnet that attracts. So he's talking about the idea that love is that attractor. That love attracts good things into our life, and I'm sure Reverend Linda's going to tell you more about that reciprocal universe next week. And hate repels. So he talks about how love brings good into our lives, and it brings health into our bodies. And we know this through science now, that angry, hateful, self-deprecatory thoughts do icky things in our body. Those of you who are science people can describe this much better than I can. But we know that. And he says, it would appear that as a matter of necessity, for our own well-being, we cannot afford not to love everybody and everything. Just as a matter, it's practical. And then he talks about, we'd like to say, yeah, that's good, but there's some people over here. Doesn't work. We cannot, he says, love in one direction and hate in another. Don't you hate that? Once we cut ourselves off from the beneficial action of love in any respect, we cut ourselves off in every respect. We cannot survive by liking the Joneses that live to the east of us and not the Browns to the west. We have to include both, and you can kind of extrapolate on that, can't you? We have to include both. This does not mean that everyone has to be very intimate and chummy, but that we cannot afford to have dislike and hatred gnawing at our minds and bodies. It's just plain common sense. Love that? It's just common sense. And then he talks about love as the interdependence of us with others. And listen to this and see if you don't think this is timeless, very timely for now. It is very likely that one of the greatest problems facing the individual and the world as a whole today finds its roots in a lack of love, a lack of a sense of interdependence. Everything is part of one great harmonious whole. And once the balance is upset, trouble starts to appear. And I don't need to continue that one on. You know what that means. The only solution, our only healthy, normal, creative avenue of approach is to let the reciprocal action of love inherent in the universe flow in and through us and out into every phase of our experience. So that's our foundation this month. And you'll be hearing through the month other aspects of understanding how powerful love is. And as I said, this is so timely and critical, I think very different from years past, how far we might have extended this idea of love and its power. So here's the thing for me. Love is the answer. I loved listening to that song. I was so happy it was going to be, and I'm doing this. How many of you, either in your hearts or physically, are going like this? But maybe it's just me. But I have a little cynical part of me that's certainly gotten tempted out these last couple of years, not just because of the pandemic, but of course because of the polarization. And if any of you are like me, it's so easy to know that love is the answer when I'm sitting in my prayer chair, or when I'm listening to Todd Rundgren sing Love and the Answer is the answer. It's easy to sit and feel that love. But then I need to go out in the world, or pick up the newspaper, or get on the phone. And just kind of knowing love is the answer is a little vague for me. Because putting flowers on guns isn't always the most effective way to be love in the world. And sometimes we get caught by, oh, being loved means being loving, which means being sweet and nice and kind. And that isn't always effective. It isn't always what's really going to help a situation in our world. So for me, when I was contemplating what I wanted to speak about, I thought, what about focusing on what is the question? What is the question that we are asking to which love is the answer? Because if we ask that question, then that will help us harness the power of love in a way that is effective to what we are meeting. Because guess what? Love comes in so many forms. And you can argue that there's a one-size-fits-all. But I'm thinking the world is calling for us to be more focused than that. So here's some questions. Here's some possible questions you might have. How can I improve my relationship with my spouse, with my partner? How can I improve my relationship with my annoying coworker? How can I improve my relationship with my friend who has been doing some stuff that doesn't work for me. You see how the same giving forth of love might not be quite effective? Could say, how can I heal my body? And finally, how can I help? How can I be solution to what's going on in the world? How can I be a solution in this era of polarization? How can I deal with my family member who is choosing a different route to deal with the virus than I am? Sometimes just sitting and knowing love isn't what's going to be the most powerful in the situation. And yet, sometimes it is. There are lots of different ways we give forth love. Here's a couple. One is that in your chair, being love, sending love. And sometimes that's all you can do. Sometimes just centering on love, sending love, it's very powerful. But once we get out in the world, for our partner, for our children, for people around us, sometimes that answer is giving forth of affection and appreciation. Giving hugs, giving acknowledgement. That is so powerful. How many of you like to be acknowledged? When somebody sees who you're being and what you're doing, and they say, boy, I really appreciate that you did this today, or I really appreciate how you do X. That's a great gift of love in the world. Sometimes it's giving gifts. But that's that sort of giving forth of affection, which is powerful and wonderful. But there's more. I was very blessed to do a memorial yesterday, and the person that I was doing the memorial for has been the epitome of love. And one of the ways she mostly did it was by rolling up her sleeves and being in action. If there was a need, she would find a way to solve it. She set up co-ops. She set up food bank for her neighborhood. She was the plant lady. She'd take plants around. Her way of being love was to get in there and do action, do service for the world. That's another great way to do love. Then there's a way of being love that takes a little more courage, which is a great word because, the core part of courage comes from the French word for heart, cœur. It takes courage, and that is telling the truth. Telling the truth. Not some opinion, oh, that dress you're wearing is terrible. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you have a friend, and this is a small example, but maybe they're late every time you get together, and you start feeling resentful, you start feeling like your time's not being respected. That love there, you can either go on and probably your resentment will grow, and it could grow to the point where the relationship, the friendship kind of dies. So what love is in the name of trying to keep this relationship going is you tell the truth. Telling the truth sometimes is, this is not working. Or this is what I'm observing about you. Way back when I used to do stuff in the human potential movement, I was a human potential movement junkie. And this is back in the 70s and 80s, and they do this example of the importance of feedback. And the example the trainer gave was he stuck his finger way up his nose and was walking around going, hi, how are you? And of course we're in the circle going, ew, ew, ew. And he goes, everybody's backing off from me and I don't know why. And you know, he's going, I just don't know. And he kept digging in his nose and walking around. And finally somebody goes, because you got your finger up your nose. And he's like, oh, and that bothers you? Everybody's like, yeah. That is a loving thing to do. But it's a little scary. And of course, sometimes we have to tell truth to power and say, I will not accept this anymore. I will not allow this on my watch. This is not acceptable. And that is so love can have its way. But that's not sweet and soft and easy. Another way is compassion. Which sometimes sounds easy, doesn't it? Like just like, oh, have lots of compassion. But it's easy to have compassion for people that you like and you totally understand why they're going through what they're going through and you agree and know if it was you, you would be doing the same thing. But that's just, I mean, that is wonderful. But compassion is a bigger idea. And sometimes compassion, and this is ironic, this is challenging for me as a minister, as Liz being a minister, is compassion is just sitting with someone, being the presence of love, but not trying to fix their hurt. It's just sitting and knowing your presence is enough. Not trying to dispense my wonderful ministerial advice. That's very powerful. And it gets even more powerful and profound when we extend that compassion to be that place of truly stepping into knowing oneness with the person in front of me, with the person in the headlines, with that person in my family who is walking out this thing called the pandemic in a way that seems unacceptable to me. That the form of love that we call compassion and oneness is that idea. Now there's a new word that's in our vocabulary. That's what we're not doing is othering. Compassion and oneness is to not other people. Those other people out there who aren't like me. Compassion is where we bring them into oneness. Reverend Deborah Johnson, who has a wonderful ministry in the Santa Cruz area, she says, deconstructing, I'm looking at my talk like you can see it right here. She says, deconstructing duality, that sense of separation, is our sacred charge. And I think that is what many of us are called to do and be in the world right now. I think the world is sick today. The physical world, our mother world, our Mother Earth, and the world of people, we're sick. And when our bodies are sick, one of the things that we do with love is send health, send love to our bodies. As Ernest Holmes said in the original quote I was reading to you, sending love and loving thoughts to our bodies helps the harmony start coming back into being. Hating anything is not going to heal anything. So this form of love that is knowing oneness is what we need to do. I think this compassion and knowing of oneness and standing in oneness and sitting in oneness and living in oneness and moving in oneness takes our deepest connection with God of all. I think 10 years ago, it might not have been as tall an order, but it is now. Because what appears to be other is so in our faces and seems all around us. So as we contemplate love this month and the different forms and this, what does it mean to say love is the answer? Yes, it is. But maybe the question that we need and want to be considering is what is needed from me today? Love is the answer, but if I ask, what is God needing from me today? What and how is love to show up with me from me this day? What is wanted this day from me? Then we can start harnessing the love that is appropriate in the forms of love that is not just appropriate, but useful, but powerful, but beneficial. And any day, in any given moment, one of those different thoughts of love or forms of love can be what's absolutely needed. How many times has a hug just been what you needed? Thank goodness. Thank goodness some of the simple forms. Or a kind word. But I think I gotta face the fact anyway that deeper love is what's needed. And you know what the good news is? We don't have to do it. As was said earlier, we get ourselves out of the way, that bloated nothingness out of the way, and let God love through us. We let God love through us. You've probably heard this on Talks on Forgiveness. That thing you can't forgive, don't even try. Let God forgive through you. Because we know that the greatest love that we have ever felt for anyone in our lives, maybe it's our kids, maybe it's our parents, maybe it's our partner, that greatest love we've ever felt, God's love is 1 billion times more powerful than that. And it can and will move into any situation through us as we ask. So I'll give you a little practice, and it's pretty simple to just help you activate that. And my recommendation, do it in the morning. Do it as a situation arises where you go, okay, I know love's the answer here, but boy, I'm not feeling it. is simply, and as I said, started in the morning so you can really get into it. Just put your hand on your heart and breathe into that heart. And then see either white light, if that feels like the light of God to you, or a purple light. We all have kind of different understandings of light, so you get to decide the color. It could be pure white light, it can be purple. There is a quality of deep love that is ascribed to what we call the Divine Mother. If you are familiar or drawn to some Hindu practices, so that's golden light of the Mother that can come into us. So you get to decide, but get that light moving into you. And ask the question, where and how does love want to show up through me today? Because by asking the question, you will empower your answer of love. Let's pray. And so I give thanks that there is an inexhaustible love that exists right here, right now, that is God. A love that can never be diminished, that can never be used up, that can never be conditioned. It is the full, free-flowing love that is God itself. It is the nature of God. And as I am, whether I always feel it or not, as I am one with that infinite power and presence, therefore I am one with that love. And I speak the word, therefore, that that love knows how to do through me what wants to be known, done, expressed, given forth. That love is wise. And it operates through me in just the right way in any situation. So this day and each day, I ask for that love to be harnessed through me into the situations in which I find myself. That love that can lift, that can open doors, that can free those who feel powerless, that can create harmony where there has been distrust. And I know as I step forward willing to be love and ask how to focus that love, then I am bringing greater restoration to the world, greater healing to the world, greater life and livingness to the world. And I am grateful to know that this way to serve is always available to me. Thank you, God.